I think it's really interesting because, the analytics have become such a heavy part of coaching nowadays. And I had a hard time watching this team. Now, it may be because the Astros have kind of have run through all of these guys that were selectively aggressive. They were very good at zone command. They swung in the zone, and when they did, they made great contact. When it was outside the zone, they didn't chase. So we're starting to see maybe that generation of hitters kind of filter through the Astros and move on. The Bregmans, the Tuckers, some of these guys that were very good at in the zone type thing. And sometimes it becomes an institutional thing where you're not getting the approach taught at a lower level and developing these guys to get to the big leagues, because the idea is once you get to the big leagues, you're going to see more pitches inside the zone. Granted, guys are nastier, spin rates are off the charts, and the ball's moving all over the place, but they have a tendency to be closer to the zone. And that's where I kind of found some of my frustration maybe in the last couple of years watching Astros baseball is, especially in 2025. Granted, there was a lot of roster turnover, so Alex Cintron and Snicker had to work with a lot of different guys. But when you see a whiff rate escalate as quickly as it did, a contact rate drop as precipitously as it did, they were still making hard contact, but they weren't making hard contact in appropriate situations for me personally. I'm a RISP guy. I am a get a runner home from third base, less than 2 outs guy. Those are paramount numbers for me for a team to be successful, because the Astros will always do a good job of getting on base.
That's good stuff. That's your former teammate, Geoff Blum, who calls Astros games for years and was a guest on Crush City Territory, our Astros show. Your thoughts?
Listen, analytics are very useful. I want to make that abundantly clear. But there's also something to be said for guys that can do both. You can hit for power, and you can drive a guy in from third base with less than 2 outs.
We don't really use that stat to evaluate players.
I know, but the goal of a game is to score more runs than the other team. So if you have the opportunity to drive a runner in, a run batted in, that means you're helping your team score runs, right? And if you don't strike out with a runner on third in less than 2 outs, and you can hit that sac fly, or you can infield's back and you hit the ground ball to second and get that runner in, that's a big deal. Like, give me those guys. Give me the guys that can get a guy over from second with less than 2 outs, can do some different things, because it puts pressure on the defense, because the strikeout, it's like, hey, struck out, now what? On to the next, right? Like, again, but I get analytics, and there are times where, yes, go for the homers. But there are also times where you might have to do some little things.
Right?
What's that?
Hit a ball to the right side.
Yeah, listen, I understand analytics, and I agree with it.
Analytics are a great way to build a team. Baseball and making contact, you're just talking about hitting, making contact, being able to change your swing to be able to hit the inside of the ball to move a runner, pull hook something if you're a lefty to try to get the runner over. Like, those are things that win you the ball games. So if you build your team based on analytics, I agree with that. But you can't run it and play it every single day going, here comes a 2-run dinger. I know we're down by 1, and if I get this runner over to third, it's great, but it's even better if I get the runner in. Like, I saw people that were complaining about the IKF bunt with Vladdy on second and nobody out, and moving him to third with the World Series on the line. Like, I saw people complaining about it. You have 3 outs and you give 1 away. Took a really good play to make the play. Like, there's things that you need to do to win games. Like AJ said, scoring runs wins you the game if you score more than the other team. OPS differential.
Let me ask you this, though, Kratz, of what you just said. You just said you want to build your team with analytics, but then you also have to have this other guy. How can you do both then? Because if you just build your team off analytics, then you also, that doesn't, as Scott said, include certain things that aren't necessarily statistically, found. So how do you do both?
We're talking about a lineup, right? Or just because that's what Blummer was talking about. I want the guys to hit the ball as possibly hard as they can hit it. And then I'm going to have coaches who say, you know what? You hit this ball so freaking hard, we need you to be able to make this adjustment. In your 600 at-bats, maybe in 100 of them, maybe in 50 of them to help us win the game. We're not just swinging for the downs, okay? analytically, you can find guys who steal bases. Doesn't mean analytics likes stolen bases. It just means you got to find guys that are efficient in it, proficient in it. I'm trying to think what else, because people say, oh, analytics, all they care about is the 3 true outcomes. You are correct. So build your team with guys that hit the ball really freaking hard, and then say, how can we make an adjustment when this type of pitcher is pitching against us to be able to get the job done? You can't just be a lineup that's like, oh boy, you're facing a Cam Schlittler, you're facing a Trey Savage. You have no chance to wear him down because of your swings. You have to be able, and that's where I think the coaches come in. I think that's where the coach is understanding that the reason this guy hits the ball hard is because he is full sell in everything in every one of his swings. How can you teach him to stay in the zone longer? How can you teach him to be okay with hitting 35 homers instead of 40? That's going to be the teams that make that adjustment, that take your team to the next level.
You can't, though. That's what you just said. You can't, because you just talked about the Yankees. Congratulations. How are they doing in these situations? They stink at them usually.
But I'm saying you have to be able to change.
They're not going. Players aren't going to, because the Yankees. I'm using the Yankees for example. They want the hard guys that hit the ball hard. We don't want them to change. We want homers. We want homers. Swing hard. Anthony Volpe. If Anthony Volpe didn't try to hit 25 to 30 homers a year, cut down on his swing, his batting average would go up, his OBP would probably go up, his power would go down, and he could steal more bases. But what is he going to get paid for? Hitting homers. So that's what they all try to do. That's the bottom line. So yes, what Blummer's saying, I agree with. But at the end of the day, players and their agents say, man, you got to hit the ball out of the park, and you got to drive the ball, because that's how you're going to get paid.
What did Max Muncy say? In the World Series, he didn't care that he went 0 for 7 in that one game. There is a way, in my opinion, to take the analytics to create the team that is going to be the best team you can possibly put out there based on analytics. Then when it comes to the games, we got to have different conversations. Why did we pick you up? It was because you hit the ball really hard. And the Yankees, because we were talking about the Yankees, they picked up a lot of guys. They tried to get, at one point, they had 3 of the hardest hitting players in the big leagues, and they had 2 dudes in the minor leagues that were the hardest exit velocity. You just said you build your team off that. Those guys that usually have the highest exit velocity strike out a lot. Giancarlo Stanton. Aaron Judge swings and misses more than anybody. You can't coach him, though, unless you start at a younger age in the minor leagues and develop that, which they don't do, because how do they get to the big leagues? By hitting the ball hard in the Yankees organization and hitting homers. Hey, that's how they get to the big leagues, right or wrong.
This sounds like Dave Popkins of the Blue Jays this year, and how he helped players craft.
But they have different types of players, though.
Yes.
They have different types of players.
Yeah,
they don't have all home run guys.
Right, but Popkins would go to Volpe, right? Theoretically.
But he's not Volpe's
I'm not
coach.
Calling out Yanks hitting coach per
No,
se,
I know.
but
Nobody
just
is.
development-wise, and be like, hey, dude, like, this might be more of the player that you are. Let's try to go down this path. Yankee fans, you could check.
But then Volpe's agent in his ear is going, don't listen to him, dude. You need to keep hitting homers, and you're going to keep getting paid. I'm just
lying, but I'm not going to say it.
You what?
His agent.
I don't even know who his agent is.
I think it's Jim Murray. It was Jim Murray.
Yeah, well, he actually called Rob Manfred and said, hey, Rob, what do you think here? Too soon? But you know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry, I can't.
I know that's funny. But you know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
It's like, we can all use Popkins, but honestly, out of their guys, IKF, Bo's a contact guy. Vladdy's always been a contact guy. Kirk's a contact guy, right? Springer's always been pretty decent at making contact. Varsho makes contact. Barger's probably the only guy that really swings, and he swings out of his ass.
Yep.
But he still makes pretty good contact. They don't have Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Volpe, these guys that are, Austin Wells that are just
bust.
Yes, they don't have those guys. So if you build your team off analytics, you get one or the other, and the one analytics wants, and the other one baseball people want.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning like old schooler, more old school people. It's fine, both work.